So let's talk about MobX. With MobX, we can create applications where we don't need to pass properties across the component tree. So it's a good way to scale your component tree in the long term. So first of all, as usual, I'm going to create a new app, create rec app, MobX test 2, because I already did MobX test 1. So let's create it. And then I'm going to Visual Studio, and then I'm going to open a new project. So let's open a new folder, and this is going to be MobX Text 2, right? So let's just select the folder, you know, all these things, right? Right, so I got the project, it's still empty, so npm install is work in progress. So you see the node modules folder is propagated already. So essentially what I will do is I'm going to do the same thing we did on Friday with Redux. If you want to recap about Redux, the video is already on YouTube. So I'm going to create a couple of components and I'll communicate them, right? So yeah, here you go. You see, I got all this stuff here, which is a good thing, right? So then we can do cd mobx test2 and then npm start. So that should hopefully start the React server. There is another process running on that port. That's fine. Create a new port instance. I'm going to open that into a incognito tab for simplicity reasons. Here you go. Welcome to React, right? Nothing exciting up until now. But then let's start with the action. So yeah, the first thing we need to do is to install MobX, right? And that's something that you already know. So to install MobX, I'm going to open an integrated terminal. The way to install MobX, we need to install a couple of packages. I'll try not to use the documentation as much as possible. That will prove how fresh all these things are on my mind. If I fail or I struggle, then I'll check on the docs. Let's try to keep that session as fresh as possible. So we need to install 2 packages. So it's npm install MobX, easy. But then we need to install MobX React. So this is the utility that will enable or will facilitate bindings on React. I'm going to do just a save to ensure that package.json gets updated. And hopefully this will install both packages. You know that with npm install, you can install multiple packages at the same time, right? You do npm I or install, and then just with the spaces, you pass the package names, and then as you can see at the bottom, every package gets installed, right? Which is convenient if you have to install multiple things. Right, so, and then, yeah, let's create a couple of components. So I'm going to create a new, and always remember, and this is a good opportunity to refresh how to create components in React. So every time I create a component, I create a new folder. So I'm going to create, first of all, a welcome folder, and then a login folder, right? And then it's the same thing again, and again, right? So keep practicing, please, to master the process. So first of all, I create the JavaScript file, and then I created the CSS file, welcome.css, right? So, and then, because this is going to be very simple, so I'm going to create a stateless component. So import React from React, export default function welcome, and then this is going to return welcome to MobX, right? And then, because I want also to import the CSS, import welcome CSS. So you see the structure, the steps I'm following, right? Keep your structure as clean as possible. Always ensure that you got all the semicolons, all the, all the syntax sugar thing is sorted before going into the chicken of the exercise. Class name equals welcome, right? So then I'm going to welcome, and then I'm going to do border 1 pixel. Yeah, just to prove it works, right? So then pretty much the same thing on the login, new file, login, JavaScript, and login.css. It's always the same thing, right? Login, 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 right? Login, 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 login everywhere, right? And then login.css, login, I'm going to drop a box in the middle of the screen, if you remember. So position absolute. This is not about the styling, so I'm going to be wrong. Then width 50%, height 50%, top 25%, left 25%, background color yellow, padding 15 pixels. Why not? That's pretty much it, right? Let's add another padding here. Maybe a margin 30 pixels. That's pretty much it. So obviously now we need to import both components, welcome and login, from the app. So I'm going to clean up a bit this this example. So I don't care about the logo. So let's remove it, and then we got welcome, and then underneath we got login. Will this work? Why? Correct. Remember to import your components, guys. So import welcome from welcome/welcome, and then login from login/login. Will this work? Well, I don't know. Right, let's see, right? Oh, it works, right? It is a good thing, right? So we got on top, welcome to MobX, and then welcome to the login component. I mean, at the moment, both components are siblings, they are neighbors. So in reality, this example is not very powerful because it will be very easy to communicate them just passing properties, right? But imagine, try to think further on that these components are completely disparate. So they are separate, they are scattered across your folder structure, because that could be the case, right? Yeah, so, right, now we want to play with the login, right? So the login box should be visible or invisible depending on the data model. So to do that, and that's the important bit, we're going to create a store. You remember stores on Redux? The difference is that's all we need, pretty much, a store. So I'm going to the login because the store is about the login, right? It's where we want to talk about actions, show login, hide login, toggle login. And this is the important bit. So I'm going to create a new file called login store.javascript. And then I'm going to keep it simple. So first, the main thing here is to create an object. How to create an object? So let login store, look, just an object, right? So which property do we care? Is visible? False. And then we can have some methods, right? Show login. So how do we solve that? What do we need to put here? Yeah, but to what? Is visible true? Do we need this? No? With the what? You have to use the arrow function. I disagree. And we'll see in a minute why. Right. So if we use a classic function, then this, yes, we can use this, right? Because this will point to the object that calls a function, this function, right? And then, because the object points to this object, then this will point to this, to that object, to that property here, right? So that should work, essentially. So this is the pretty much the thing, right? And then now the important bit here is we export the login store. The only tricky part, export default login store. Correct. The only important part is we need to tell React that this object is a special object. It's an observable. It's an object that other components may subscribe to, right? So to do the tricky part, we need to import observable from MobX, right? This is a function. As this is a function, we're going to wrap the object, we're going to pass the object as an argument of the function. So then we're telling, hey, I'm going to make an object public so everyone can subscribe to it. Everyone will be able to check if the login is visible, everyone will be able to show the login. That's the idea. So then on the other side, we want to subscribe to this object. So let's see how to do it. Let's see how to do it. The first thing is welcome will subscribe to the object. Login will also subscribe to the object. For this kind of cases, what we are going to do is we're going to pass the store to the objects. So we're going to import the login store and we're going to pass it here and there. Based on that, whenever anything changes on the object, this component will be notified and that component will be notified too. So let's do that. Import login store from login store. Right? So if we do that, we just pass the store to the components that want to subscribe. By doing this, now we can go to the welcome component, and this is the final bit, it's final part of the setup. The only thing we need to do here is at the moment, we will already receive login store because we're passing it, right? But however, the component is not going to be refreshed every time we change the visibility of the login. Why? Because welcome is not subscribed to changes on the store. How can we subscribe components to a store? It's pretty much the same thing as the way we, yes, correct. So we got observable to make a component observable, visible, right? So now we need to do the same thing on the other way around. On welcome, what we need to do is import observer, because this guy is going to be observing data models from, and this is not MobX, this is MobX React.
I suppose it's almost like Bluetooth.
Yep.
Something is being discoverable.
Yep. Yeah, discoverable. Correct. 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 Yeah, I like that, Aaron. That's correct. So in here, we're making the login store discoverable by other objects. But then that's not enough, right? You need to subscribe to that discoverable object, right? That's what we did here. So look, export default observer. You see? Again, here to make the object observable, we pass it as an argument of the observable function. To make the welcome component compatible with that observable, then we need to wrap it in the observer function, right? And the same thing for the login. So let's do the same thing. Login, import observer, export default, observer, right? That's it. That's it. That's really it. There is nothing else we need to do. Based on that, and let's see if that works, we can do welcome to MobX. This is the welcome component. Is the login visible? Right? So let's see if that works. So I'm going to do login store dot is visible. You see we got the is visible property on the right. Yeah, like that. So is login visible? If it's visible, yes, else, no. Let's see if that makes any sense. So what will this return? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes? Why yes?
No. No, because we did change. Still not changed it. Not for the show login.
We're checking login store is this object. So we're checking a property called is visible. What's the value of is visible? Is false. So then what should be displayed? No. Correct. Ideally. Right? No. It works, right? Still, even though it's great because it looks like it's going to work, remember please to keep the tools always open, right? Because if something goes wrong, that will help to debug where the issue is. Right. Say is no. But what happens if we change the value of is visible to true by default? Boom. It works, right? It works. So that's a good thing because we prove that we can subscribe to an observable object and then we can check the properties, right? That's the basic step. But now we want to interact. We want to change it, right? So we want to add a button. Whenever we click on the button, we want to check the value, right? Let's do that. Let's do that. That should be quite easy now. It's super, super simple. Look, I'm going to add a button called show login. So the button is going to have an on-click event. I mean, guys, you should be able to do that, by the way. You tell me, what do we need to do to show the login? Button what? On click. With capital or with lower? Capital. Thank you, Aaron. On click. On click what? Curly bracket. And then what? Show login. Like that. Right. So let's have a look. So, well, it was true already. Sorry. Let's move to false. Also, let's add a break line for readability purposes. Remember that readability is important. Let's have a look. Boom. Right. What happens if I click again? It's going to remain yes. Okay, so that's fine, right? That's fine. Instead of showing yes or false, let's start communicating the components. Because at the moment, login doesn't give a shit, right? It's just there all the time, right? And that's not what we want. So let's hide the login. That should be quite easy already. You've done that last Friday using Redux. The code is pretty much the same thing. So I have welcome on the left, login on the right. So what we need to do is I'm going to add a class name, right? Is visible. If login has the class name, then it will show up. If not, it will be hidden. So in other words, login by default display none. And then login dot is visible. Do we need to put any space here? What happens if I put any space here? Correct. Correct. That's it. If I put any space here, it will look for a login element, and then inside of it, it will search for any children with this class name. But we don't want to do that. We want to put it on the root level for simplicity reasons. So then, what do we need to put here to display the login? Thank you, Justin. Display block. Cool. Will this work? Why? Correct. 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 So we just need here to come here, and the only thing we need to do is to add the class name, right? So let's use our friend the backticks for template literals. So we can do a guy. Let's import the login store first. That will help, right? And then we can say, hey, if login store dot is visible, then is visible. If not, just do nothing, right? That's it. Is yes, that's correct. There is a typo here. Thank you, Sultan. Is visible, right? So that means that if that's correct, yes. So now the login is hidden. And now will it show up when I click on the button? Such a mystery, right? Let's have a look. It doesn't show up. So I've done something wrong. What? I have no idea. So let's figure out. Right. So login is visible. If I got the is visible property, then add the is visible. Let's try to find typos. Is visible. If not, do nothing. And then on the CSS, is visible. Yeah, I mean, it looks correct. I cannot spot any issue at the moment. And because of that, as I cannot spot any issue, I'm going to check on the DOM. Right, let's see if we can find anything suspicious. Oh, it's visible. What's that? You see the typo, right? I mean, most of the time you come to me asking questions about CSS. The answer is as simple as checking on the DevTools, and you will see, not sure if you noticed, that there is a typo. It's visible. That's why it's not working, probably, right? Where did he put is visible? That's correct, right? I never typed that. It's visible. That's probably because I have autosave.
Yeah, it's there.
It's there. Where is there? It's busy. It's, no, that's correct, Sultan.
Login CSS.
Really?
The class
No.
name is BC.
No, it's correct. The class name is correct. So the problem here, and that's a problem of autosave, you should be aware of that, is that as soon as you keep typing, it keeps saving the file, right? So maybe it saved the file before I finish typing. That sometimes happens. That's why it's good to have some kind of delay. So if you go to code, preferences, settings, you see autosave delay, I got half a second. But in some cases, it could be good to extend it a little bit, right? If you get, depends on how fast you type, to be honest. Right, so then let's have a look again. Right, here you go. You see? So now it's hidden. When you click on the button, shows up, right? So, and then you'll tell me, if we want to add another button underneath to hide the login, or actually, no, from the login component, we want to hide ourselves, right? You know the classic cross icon on top right to cancel the operation. So how can we add a button on the right-hand side, on the login component, to hide itself? Add a button, right. And then what? I got the button. X, right. Yeah, no, that's X. That's correct. And then what? On click, what? Login store, the what? Hide login. Will this work? Yeah? Correct. Easy, right? That's it? Or not? Constantine disagree?
No.
Correct. Thank you. So now, so login, hide login. So login, hide login. Right? It works. Easy, right? It's very easy to extend the mechanism. And the last question, how do we do the toggle? Here, I don't want to do the show. I want to do a toggle.
Just create a
New method.
function.
Right, so let's do it. Toggle login. Is visible is what? Exclamation mark. This dot is visible. Like that? Right? Yeah. True, correct? Easy, right? It's super simple. That's why I love MobX. The setup, just a couple of things, right? Remember, let's recap, because that's pretty much it. Remember, last Friday, we took 52 minutes to solve this example. Now we're on 23. So, recap. We have to install, first of all, MobX and MobX React. Cool. Then you create the store. That's the important bit, to create the store. You will have multiple stores, right? So for the login, these are the operations that are sensitive for the login, but you may want to have different things, right? If you have a menu, you may want to have a store for the menu, to show the menu, hide the menu. I don't know. You have multiple stores, right? Keep the stores as simple as possible. And in that aspect, right, you see that the store sits nearby the JavaScript component and the CSS, right? So don't create a store folder and put all the stores in there, right? So keep it meaningful and keep the namespaces in that way, right? So we created the object, and then we just make the object discoverable, as Aaron said before, right? So then on the other side, the parent of the element who wants to access that object, we just need to pass the store. So the store will be available, just a property, right? It's the same as passing foo hello, right? So foo will be available on the children, right? So just by passing the store will be available on the children, right? But if we don't just want to pass the store, but we want to keep the content refreshed all the time, then what you need to do is you need to import the observer function that belongs to the MobX React package, and then just wrap your component into that function. So that means that every time anyone changes the isVisible property, any subscribed component like login will be refreshed, will be notified, right? Because of that, we make sure that even, look at yes, even if it's the login who changes the data model, boom, you see, everyone is in sync. Is there any question?
Can you show file structure?
Can I show what?
File structure.
File structure. Yeah.
So you have your store and login folder.
Yeah, I created, every time I create a React component, I create a folder. Why? Because every component will have at least 2 files. Which ones?
Yes and CS.
Correct. And then some people say, but a component may not have the CSS. That's true. But generally speaking, most of a component is a piece of UI, right? A piece of UI needs to be styled by definition, right? So most of the cases that will have some CSS attached to it, right? That's why I got the JavaScript, I got the CSS, and then I got the store. Why the store is here? Because if I change the login component, I may want to change the store and vice versa. So they are very related, right? The store and the component, they are related. That's why it's good to keep them together. It's like, you remember the test. When we talked about testing last week, if you create a login.test.javascript, we put it here as well. So the login is really well encapsulated. Every resource about login sits on a login folder, right? So if tomorrow we want to move the login folder anywhere else, that's it. We just move the folder and everything goes alongside, right? And that could even simplify the way we pass the stores across the component tree. So the alternative is to use providers. And providers can be used with or without TypeScript decorators. We're going to keep it simple and we're going to explain how to do it without any type of decorator. So in that particular aspect, so the only thing we need to do is at the very root of the application, in the index.javascript in our case, so where we bootstrap our React application, so we just import the provider component that belongs to MobX React, and we're just wrapping the app with this component, right? And here we can pass a list of arguments, which are all the stores that are going to be available on the app. So in the particular case, we are saying, hey, any component will be able to inject the login store. And what inject means? That means that if we have a look to the welcome component, I've refactored it a bit. So instead of observing the component directly, so you can see that in here, so I'm importing the inject function. So then when you use inject, you receive an argument, which is the store that you want to use within the component, right? So the syntax without decorators is a bit tricky, but it's understandable. So inject returns a function, and that function, which is here, in that function we call observer, and then we pass another callback function, which is our component, right? So that's pretty much it. Inject, then the component we want to, the store that we want to use, and then we call observer, and then that store will be available, right? So the reason why I like it is if we just need to import the login store once, right? Just once. With the previous approach, if we want to pass several times the store to different components, we had to import it several times. But now, it's just once on the root of the app. So that means that if tomorrow we want to change the location of the login store to login store 2 or new login store or whatever, we just have to update it here, and that's it, right? And every component will access to the new provided store. That's it.